Hello guys, I warmly welcome to all of you for today's session. So in previous session we already discussed about the scenario manager, goal sake, right? So today's session we are going to discuss about the macros and VBA. This is really a very important topic in Excel. So what this macro does basically, let's say step by step why we are going to use it, what are the advantages of this, right? So in this session we learn to automate tasks, customize the automated task, this agenda of the chapter. So here you can see the case study. First of all, we have to understand with the case study, then we're going to carry forward. Alpha Supermart has decided that all its store will sell the product at the lesser price on Wednesday that than usual. To analyze the effectiveness of the scheme, Wes Smith, his store supervisor, create a weekly sales report. So Smith is a store supervisor who creating the weekly sales report inside. While creating worksheet, Smith wants to ensure that all the formatting standards are maintained with the minimum efforts, right? So Mr. Smith, he wants to maintain everything is of its minimum effort. They don't need to do the like hierarchical task, right? Complicated task. How will Smith perform the desired task? Let's first understand what is the macro and how to record the macro and execute and delete the macros. Okay. So Excel allow you to automate frequently perform tasks by using the macro feature. Okay. So macro is a tool that contains the set of instruction in the Visual Basic application that is called VBA code. Like I hope you remember guys. So in Excel, once you done the cells dot auto fit row and cells dot auto fit row and column, right? In that time you use the VBA code. Simply right click on the sheet and go to the view code. To automate the task, the task action are captured by recording a macro. To perform the recording task, the recorded macro need to be executed. Obviously, whatever recording you are going to do, whatever during recording going to be captured, you are going to execute and you're going to perform a certain action. Macro can be saved in the macro enable workbook or in a macro enable template using any of three options. First one, this workbook, new workbook, and personal macro workbook. So it is default option which save the macro in the current workbook, right? So you're going to work in the current time in this workbook. New workbook, when the option is used, a new workbook is created and recorded macro is saved in the work. Personal macro workbook, when this option is used, a macro is saved in the personal macro workbook of the Excel application. This workbook is automatically accessed by every other workbook in the computer in which macro is recorded. Excel use developer tab to work with the macro. Naming rules for macro must begin with an alphabets, can contain the alphabets digit and the underscore, cannot contain any white space and character, should be different from the Excel boolean name. So this is naming rules of the macro basically must be the start with alphabets like very simple example like I want to show you guys like naming rules. Macro. So very simple example. Suppose I'm writing here, like I'm writing student ID, right? This way. Start with alphabets is okay. But this is wrong because it's not going to contain any blank space between, right? So you have to write like this student ID. This is correct. You cannot start with number. Like I given here DK student. This is wrong. Cannot start with any number. So make sure once you give if you blank space you want the space between like employee ID, like customer ID, like this you can give it. Okay, it will never contain blank spaces, make sure, and it will never start with the numbers. So identify the file extension that used to save the Excel file as a macro enable workbook. So Excel file extension you guys know .xlx, right? But here in the macro file extension going to .xlsm. Okay, .xlsm going to be the file extension for the macro where once you save the file. I will show in the practically once you're going to save the file, and we are going to check the file extension as well. Just like as I told in previous video, guys, each file has extension. Even any programming languages, any file like notepad.txt, excel.xlx, power bi.pptx, word.docx, documentary file. So identify the correct option that allow you to save the macro in the workbook that is automatically access to every other workbook in the Excel. So as I told you, three types of workbooks. So personal macros you can access another workbook as well, but this new workbook you can access in the same individual, not other. So here macro, personal macro workbook going to be right answer. Once macro is recorded, you can execute it's when similar tasks need to be performed or remove it from your workbook when no longer required. Obviously, if I done some recording in macro, if no longer required, there is no use of this, so we can easily remove it. To record relative steps or capture keystroke, you need to enable the use relative reference button in the code group under the developer tab. So you can see use relative reference option. So we're going to enable the developer tab as well. Okay, I'll show you. So identify the button in the macro dialog box that is used to execute a macro. So you're going to run, execute to step, and execute to obviously going to be used run option. So let's see how can Smith ensure that all the formatting standards are maintained with the minimum efforts. Okay, so to ensure that formatting standards are maintained, Smith need to be make use of macro features in Excel. He need to be first capture the task to perform by recording macro and later execute the macro when same task has to be performed again. Okay. So this was the simple case study for the macro, how the macro going to work, how we are going to make automated tasks, right? And the sales managers, next one we're going for the VBA. So first we complete the macro practical, after then we move